Ever since the 1980s, the Japanese video game company Nintendo has become one of the most successful entertainment companies in the world, with 33 distinct consoles created and a net worth of $67 billion according to the website Macro Trends. Nintendo is influential and incredibly popular with kids, families, and seasoned gamers. Despite the popularity of Nintendo's consoles and games, the company has also faced several controversies. One of the most major controversies is how overprotective Nintendo is of its intellectual properties, and they have had a history of shutting down fan-made games and videos featuring their characters and music, even if it is technically considered fair use. Although these practices are controversial, a very recent practice Nintendo is engaging in is overpricing its most recent console and games. I have taken issue with Nintendo's recent pricing strategies. The Switch 2, the follow-up to the successful Switch, which I will explain later, has faced scrutiny due to its incredibly high price and its expensive Switch 2 exclusive games. Nintendo is my favorite video game company, with my favorite games coming from them, like Animal Crossing, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and Donkey Kong Country, and many more. So it frustrates me that the modern games are so expensive, it makes me and many others not want to buy them at all. Before I explain my issues with Nintendo's pricing strategies, I will explain some of Nintendo's history throughout the years that it has existed. Nintendo was originally a playing card company, founded in Kyoto, Japan in 1889. They made their own Hanafuda cards. Hanafuda is a popular Japanese card game. Nintendo specialized in making toys for decades, such as the Ultra Hand, but they eventually found success in their 1981 arcade game, Donkey Kong, and they have focused on video games ever since. Nintendo eventually created their own video game console known as the Famicom, also known as the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, in other regions. In 1985, Nintendo released their flagship title, Super Mario Bros., which has sold over 40 million copies according to Statista. They eventually made many more influential consoles, such as the DS, a handheld with 2 screens, the Wii, which has a motion control remote, and the Switch, a console that's a hybrid between a home console and a handheld. I adore Nintendo's innovative and creative video games, but the Switch 2 and its games are so expensive, and I will explain why I would recommend against supporting these business practices. First, I will explain the Switch 2 and its prices. The Switch 2 is a direct follow-up to the previously mentioned Switch. However, it has some upgrades like a larger screen, magnetic Joy-Cons, mouse controls with the Joy-Cons, 4K graphics, and game chat, which uses the Switch 2's microphone so you can talk to friends online. As to be expected, a more powerful version of the Switch would likely cost more. However, its price is excessive in my opinion. It costs $450, $150 more than the original Switch did when it launched. I believe the Switch 2 is overpriced, especially when compared to the original. Nintendo has had a history of pricing its games and consoles cheaper than Xbox and PlayStation, appealing to families and casual audiences. Because of the Switch 2's price, many people in those audiences refuse to buy it. The Switch 2's games have also suffered from the price hike. Many of them are $70 as opposed to the Switch's $60 games. But however, the worst offender is Mario Kart World, releasing at a staggering $80. I believe it is not worth the price at all, as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has more racetracks. Another example of an overpriced Nintendo Switch 2 game is Mario Tennis Fever. It costs $70 despite being a simple tennis game that recycles animations from its predecessor, Mario Tennis Aces. Nintendo's games used to cost $30, with some even selling for $20. However, due to inflation and Nintendo's more ambitious products, the games cost way more now. Despite this, Nintendo is lowering the prices for their upcoming Switch 2 games, Splatoon Raiders and Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. However, the latter's physical copy will still be $70. Not only is the Switch 2 incredibly costly, but it also carries over some issues the original Switch has. Just like the Switch 2 has a common issue fans call Joy-Con drift, which refers to when the joystick starts moving on its own, making the games hard to control. The dock is also just as unstable and flimsy as the original as well. The Switch 2 also has a subscription service for online play. I always believed simply playing online should be free, but Nintendo does not believe this at all. The Switch 2 is already expensive, and you have to pay even more to play with friends online. However, this is not Nintendo's first time overcharging or attempting to overcharge. The first example is Wii Sports. Wii Sports comes packaged with the Wii for free, but it was originally going to cost money and be sold separately. However, former president of Nintendo of America, Reggie Fils-Aimé, has argued against charging for a simple tech demo showcasing the Wii's features. Nintendo listened and decided to bundle the game with the Wii. Unfortunately, the same thing did not happen for the Switch 2. Its tech demo, Welcome Tour, costs $10 when it should really come with the Switch 2 for free. Although Fils-Aimé retired from being the Nintendo of America president, someone at Nintendo could try to convince the company to make more decisions that would not result in overcharging. The other example is the 3DS, the DS's more powerful successor. It originally sold for $250, $100 more than the original. However, due to poor sales, Nintendo lowered the price to $150. The 3DS managed to sell much better due to its lowered price. And I believe Nintendo can do the same for the Switch 2. It has not sold as well as the original did in a year due to its prices. If people refuse to buy it, Nintendo could lower the Switch 2's price and more people will be willing to buy it. I believe this strategy will make them more money than keeping the prices as they are. Nintendo's pricing decisions are questionable, and it is not impossible for customers to make a difference, even if that difference is simple. The possibility of Nintendo changing its business practices is not guaranteed at all, but they might consider making a change if they hear customers' concerns or are suffering from poor sales. A way to express your concern is simply not buying their products. This can be difficult if you are a Nintendo fan and are excited to play their new games. However, buying their games means to them you are supporting their business decisions, and they might even try to double down on the high prices. Everyone is entitled to their own decisions and can buy the Switch 2 and its games if they want to, but I would recommend against it if you want them to drop the prices. I believe this approach may work because, as I stated before, some of Nintendo's upcoming games will be cheaper. Another way to express your concerns is to make your voice heard. You can make a post or video online for people to hear, or you can contact Nintendo and share your concerns with them. You can email them or even send them a physical letter. I did the latter and managed to get a written response from Nintendo of America. If you plan on making your voice heard, please do not harass Nintendo or anyone that is in favor of the high prices. Please be calm, respectful, and reasonable. To conclude, Nintendo's prices have skyrocketed in the Switch 2 era. I disagree with their price choices, as I believe the Switch 2 is not affordable, nor is it worth the $450 price tag. I believe Nintendo can lower their prices and fix this issue, and a reason why is because they are starting to listen to their customers' complaints. I have been disappointed with how much money is being charged for an otherwise intriguing looking console. As a Nintendo fan, I really dislike this direction. As I stated before, I recommend against supporting the Switch 2's price. Customers are incredibly important for any business, and if you respectfully voice your concerns, Nintendo could change their prices and make the Switch 2 more affordable. I believe lowering the prices will result in the Switch 2 becoming more successful and accessible to a wider audience.